Welcome to the Round Ball Roundup. We've returned finally for our traditional Monday show. Joining me is my co-host Cameron Wiper and News Corp and FNR's Nick Dabano. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you on, Nick. Done the rounds recently. So today we've got a big announcement coming. We've got the Western Sydney Wanderers announcing a major signing in a couple minutes. Sources tell, well, I guess Twitter says that it is Mitchell Duke who will be returning to the Western Sydney Wanderers imminently. But I guess before we discuss that, Nick, we'll just go into your career a little bit, how you've got this job at News Corp and as well as FNR. So sort of just tell us your career within football, as I believe you also do some stuff within the AFL sphere as well.
Yeah. Where do I start? I guess, yeah. So I'm a year out of uni now. So I finished up in uni in 2019. When FNR started around the end of 2017, I sort of interned there for a while, doing a bit of production and then did a bit of on-air stuff around the 2018 World Cup. So sort of, was around there for a while, sort of haven't left since, been in and around there for now 3 and a bit years, almost 3.5. And with News Corp, I've been running part of News Corp since the start of 2019. So fortunate enough, there was an opening to do some A-League stuff this season. And been very privileged to get the opportunity to cover the Melbourne-based side so far this year. It's been great fun. And I guess to keep it briefly, I do a bit of stuff with AFL as well on Channel 31. So yeah, it's good so far. I'm very lucky, I guess, at a young age to get these opportunities. And look, just love the game, and being able to talk about it and do this as a job is, I guess, I can't even put it into words. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think especially within a football media that is been marginalized in recent months, it's fantastic to see News Corp give so many young writers an opportunity. Yourself, obviously, Kylie Adno, Daniel Garb. I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head, but those are the ones that I believe I think Val is also doing some stuff as well, which is fantastic. Yeah. And it's fantastic to see, obviously, a larger presence in the media box as well this season. That's what I've seen, at least. Going to the very few games I've been to within that environment. But I guess, how is it to, be on that on-air presenter role within FNR Radio as well? Obviously, been in that environment for, a couple of days. Like, what type of preparation does it take to deliver a morning or evening show?
Well, I'll tell you, morning shows are a lot more difficult than evening shows because you're getting up, you got to battle the early mornings, and we all know, when you get up extra early and you got to commute into the CBD when you're coming in from the suburbs, you got to battle. That's probably the hardest element of it. In terms of preparation, look, it's sort of you prepare the night before and you make sure that you're ready when you get in. Guests on, making sure your questions are all ready to go. You liaise with your fellow co-hosts before what you want to talk about, etc. But, you get used to it. When I did my first show, thinking back February 2018 to now, you prepare meticulously and you write down everything that you think you need, every stat, every little bit of iota of information that you think you need. You don't need to use it in the end. But as time goes on, you sort of get used to, I guess, just being able to talk about it, sort of with the experience of getting the nerves out of the way first and then just being able just to have a chat and just forget that, this is, at the end of the day, just talking football like you would with your mates any other time. And I think that's sort of the best part about it, FNR. You just feel like you're, if you're at the pub with mates before a game or after a game, you're just having a chat. Like, it doesn't need to always be extremely hard-hitting stuff. It can be a bit of fun, be a bit entertaining. Because to be honest, look, we're not, I know I'm no, Simon Hill or, I haven't got the same sort of, respect in the industry. Being able just to talk about it and try and make it as, fun, entertaining as possible is what I try and do. And look, in terms of preparation, it's just about making sure that, you're not saying anything that's wrong or just making sure you know your stuff. And obviously being able to pull things up, as a show's going. I guess it's, and sort of little bits of information here and there, throwing in facts. It just makes all the better.
And that's really fantastic. But Mitchell Duke has just been announced as a Western Sydney Wanderers player. People thought it would be Apostolos Giannou who would return to Australia, but it is Mitchell Duke who had left the club in August of last year, spent about 4 months in Saudi Arabia. Now he has returned to the Wanderers. Now, I guess obviously it's very sort of off the cuff stuff, but I'll bring it to Cameron. What are your thoughts on the signing for the Wanderers?
They are going to be a completely different team to how they are now. This is the player that pretty much propped them up last season that's come in. He's returned again. And yeah, they've had a decent start to the season, and now they've got someone to bolster attack. This is a very smart signing for them to bring back someone that is proven to be a star in the league.
Yeah, and I guess I'll bring it to Nick as the media releases come through on my email. Go on and just sort of discuss what are your thoughts on this huge signing for the competition?
Didn't see it coming so quickly. I know it's only been gone for 6 months. He left at the end of the hub period, and he was such a key player for the Wanderers. You said, Cameron, he's that key cog, and I think the one position at the Wanderers I think have probably needed to improve on is certainly up front. I think they've got guys like Simon Cox and Bernie Abini and Yaboa and these sort of guys, but not all of them are your natural sort of goal scorers. Abini's more of a winger. Simon Cox sort of plays off the shoulder. Needs someone there. He played really well with Mitchell Duke up front at the Wanderers last season. And I guess it speaks for itself. 18 goals in 37 games he's seen at the Wanderers over the past season and a half. He was the captain. He adds leadership. It's not like you're getting someone in that hasn't been around the blocks at Western Sydney. They know what they're going to get from him. So I think it's a really smart signing from the Wanderers. And look, after the starts of the season, they've been a bit inconsistent. Some good results, but some not so good. I think this is a great signing for them.
I guess I think it's a fantastic signing. Really completes the last piece of the puzzle for Carl Robinson's squad. I'd have to say this has been a very good recruitment season for the Wanderers. With the window closing imminently in about a week's time, this is a fantastic coup for the Wanderers, and really might be possibly that final piece, as I mentioned before, to like the puzzle to win a championship. I could have just cursed the Wanderers fans, but still, that's the main sentiment that I think I'm getting out of this, is that they've got this really proven striker to join the competition, who has obviously scored for them last season. The only question I have regarding this is the quarantine procedures, if he's in the country or not, and also why did his contract get terminated so early? Was that a club decision, or was that a sort of a mutual termination on Mitchell Duke's part? So I'm sure all this will be addressed in the coming press conferences. But moving on to sort of the A-League review from the weekend, we'll go first to the Western United versus Melbourne Victory game. Now, this game had the build-up of a derby. That's at least what Western United tried to do. But obviously, it was quite a whirlwind game, wasn't it, Nick?
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Probably one of the more crazy 0-0 games I've ever watched. We're talking about, we've seen great games before when it's been a 0-0, but this was, in terms of an A-League spectacle, just unbelievable. I think Western United they pulled out all the stops for this one, made this as much of a derby as possible. And we know that the things they did were questionable, and some people were questioning, why would they come in on a boat and, do all that sort of stuff and try and really rile up Victory fans. But hey, they're doing what they can. At the end of the day, they're trying to make this a derby, and Victory fans may not see it like that. But to be honest, the action on the field felt like a derby. It was spiteful. There were a lot of yellow cards in the first half. It felt fiery, end-to-end football. But I think if we're going to talk about this game, I think we have to talk about simple, in terms of a phrase, a common phrase actually used for a different kind of football in America, is that football is a game of inches. And this game was a game of inches. The two offsides that ruled out Western United's 2 goals. You think about the first one with Connor Payne. Certainly we in the box were all looking at Berisha potentially being offside. He looked on. No one was really looking at Connor Payne. He was offside for that one. Dylan Parias, well, we heard what Mark Rudin had to say after the game. He was not happy about it. He was offside by an absolute fraction, or whether he was offside or not, depends on, I guess, the cameras and the lines and all that sort of stuff. And, and then you look at the Diamante crossbars, in the matter of 2 minutes, he hits the crossbar twice from range, and it could have been a completely different game. Western United were far and away the better team. I think that comes down to, as well, Melbourne Victory not really having many options up front. And in the second half, they weren't able to really create anything bar Birkenkadar's late effort. It showed that they were really missing someone like Robbie Cruz, like Callum McMahon, and more Rudy just said, in this game. So I think, look, West United could certainly feel as if they dropped 2 points in this one. Melbourne Victory maybe would be feeling quite fortunate to come away with just a point in this one.
Yeah, I think more of the same, I guess, from regarding my thoughts. I think I definitely saw, a very action-packed first, 5-10 minutes of the game, plenty of tension. I think it was 6 yellow cards in the first half, something around that. And you look at sort of how West United really dictated the tempo within the fixture, especially in the last sort of 10 minutes with those 2 crossbar shots, which really rattled us. And I think the 2 offsides were inches close from being like legitimate goals. And especially Dylan Price's goal with, I guess, a lack of cameras, if you will, within the stadium to determine if that was a valid offside or not, really sort of indicated that West United should have had the upper hand. But I think Louis Latanzio up front as well. One thing I noticed is that he always put in runs from behind. And I think he's still very rigid in his sort of state and in his striker mentality hasn't really shifted since he's come to sort of the professional ranks. But I think he did have a very strong chance in the second half where I think he headed it right down and just went wide of the goal. So there's plenty of room for him to improve, especially under the guide of Rudy Gestede in coming weeks. But really, this was West United's to lose, and I felt that with essentially 4 chances, which should have been goals, as we see one of the crossbars here, this was such an unfortunate result for them, but for the competition, it's good football. When our 0-0s can generate this much excitement and this much animosity between the 2 sides, it's really fantastic. And also shout out to Andrew Durante making his 400th National League appearance, a huge milestone for him. Cameron, I'll guess what are your thoughts from an outsider's perspective, someone who wasn't at the game?
Yeah, I didn't catch the game. I've only just watched the highlights. But what struck me is you were saying earlier that Melbourne Victory don't think it's a derby. The reaction of the fans, I know it's both Western United and Melbourne Victory fans in the crowd. They were both really, really up for it. It wasn't just the Western United fans trying to egg them on. And also, Guarachena's chance stood out for me. When he finds a little bit of space on the right-hand side of the penalty area, Loughton comes out to meet him and stands strong as Guarachena strikes straight at him pretty much. But, oh no, not Loughton, sorry, Crocombe. Crocomb's reaction to making that save is like he's just scored his 3rd goal in a hat-trick. He goes absolutely mental. So I think if you try and tell the Victory players that it wasn't a derby, they'd laugh you off. They were up for this one for sure.
There's plenty of pent-up animosity between the 2 sides and both the sets of fans as well. Be it the Melbourne Victory banter on social media earlier in the day, or just the general tussle-ups between Andrew Durante. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, regardless, it was a really good fixture to watch, and I think really for, I guess, the first battle of the bridge within Amy Park's circles, as the Victory had a home fixture, but that was obviously in the bubble last year. But for a first battle of the bridge within Amy Park, it was something to be seen. I think West United did a fantastic job with the promotion of the fixture. Maybe the crowd figures don't really dictate that, but with reports that that fans just walked in the stadium because of issues with the ticket standing, with ticket sort of, I don't know, ticket turnstiles, whatever you want. That was very, interesting to see the crowd that they got, only 7,000. But a game which Perth Glory won was this one against the Melbourne City. Obviously, you did see in many stages that City had the upper hand that first half, but completely fell apart in that second half. Nick, I'll let you start us off.
Yeah, it was a game of 2 halves. I was very surprised with how quickly City fell off after halftime. It seemed like that Dane Ingham goal right on the break almost just sapped the energy right out of them. As you see, like after really this chance that Ingham had in the first 6 minutes, it was all Melbourne City, but they conceded a goal against the run of play. Daniel Steins' effort deflected off Carlo Armiento, which came just from a brilliant crossfield pass from Diego Castro, found him in some space. Tom Glover couldn't do anything about it. But this connection here, what you could see between Naoki Sabaki and Jamie McLaren was the show. They were linking up for everything in the first half. They were, McLaren was finding himself in great areas, should have put that one away. He had a few chances, he headed over the bar. And then, fortunately enough, he was in the right place at the right time when Noon missed. And at that point in time, I think you would have been thinking, all right, look, I think City here will probably be able to run over them. Perth have played so many games. They're tired. We know they've had their defensive issues. They're frail at the back. But it just didn't seem like City were able to take advantage of it. And Patrick Hisnorbo said it was just concentration at key moments which cost them. And for all 3 goals, 2 of them off set pieces, 1 a deflection. Can't help but think that may be the case. But then when you look at the game in itself, after halftime, Melbourne City barely struck and really bothered Tando Valapi at all. Where they brought Marco Tilio on. He wasn't able to really get into the game as much as they would have been hoping for. Florent Berenguer as well wasn't able to impact the game they would have liked. And then a real bewildering decision not to maybe make 2 changes at once for their third sub, so they could make an extra sub that fits change later in the game by bringing on just Nathaniel Atkinson and maybe not Stefan Kolikovsky, who, if you remember against Western United, set up the winner for Jay McLaren and provided a lot of energy on the flank, which was something that Melbourne City desperately needed in the last 15 minutes or so when the game was still 2-1. But Perth just took their chances. It was as simple as that. You know, D'Agostino, brilliant header, and Melbourne City, these are the sort of games that can be the difference at the end of it. You know, dropping these sort of points, and it's so even at the moment between that 1st to 8th gap that you don't want to be dropping these sort of games. And I think what we've seen from Melbourne City so far this year has been just wildly inconsistent performances. And look, they were quite uninspiring in their 2 wins, to be fairly honest, against Western United and Brisbane Roar. At least from my point of view, I thought against Brisbane, they were very fortunate to come away with a win. I think that was probably more than likely should have been a draw. And then the Western United game, they snatched that one at the death. So, look, I think that Patrick Hisnorbo has a lot of questions and sort of, you know, things he needs to ponder over the next few games. And they're on the road now. Newcastle, Mariners, Wanderers, a chance to get away. And I'm intrigued to see how they bounce back in New South Wales.
Cameron, obviously your thoughts being a Perth Glory fan on this one. Obviously a neutral as well, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, Nick, you were absolutely right with the second substitution thing for Melbourne City. Personally, I breathed a sigh of relief when knew Kolikovsky wasn't going to come on, because he was, you know, an outstanding player when he made his cameo against Western United, and I thought that would be the sort of thing that would trouble us, having lots of really quick, energetic players up against a defence that is really shaky, particularly in the dying moments of games. So to know that he wasn't coming on was a bit of a relief, personally. And then, Melbourne City were dominant in the first half. They really should have been 2 or 3 goals ahead, really, in that first half. But second half, they kept Perth Glory under pressure. Perth couldn't really get hold of the ball. It's just a lot of Melbourne City passing it around in the Perth half, but they couldn't really work their way into the box. I think I had 2 chances that forced Valafi into very smart saves. A word on that, Valafi has been outstanding for my money since he's come in. Even though he's not played in so long, he played a couple of games in the Asian Champions League, but he's not been playing A-League football regularly for about 3 years or something, I think it was. But he's been outstanding. And D'Agostino as well, most impressive player for the first few games, bar perhaps Armiento for Perth, stealing in for the header for the final goal to take the pressure off. And that was something that was really good to see. Perth were able to kill the game with 5 minutes to go, rather than sit back and try and defend, which obviously didn't work against Melbourne Victory and didn't work very well in the Asian Champions League. To kill the game with 5 minutes to go was very good to see.
And I think very good to see Perth get up, and especially in the tight packed schedule they've had. And they've obviously got more issues coming their way with the Perth lockdown as well. That brings Nick's appearance to an end. He's been fantastic today, as he always is. Keep up the work, mate. You've been absolutely fantastic over the course of the past season and past couple of years as well. It's been fantastic to see you thrive within the journalistic environments you've been at. So props to you, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks very much, guys. Anytime.
No worries. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to our other games this week. But before we get into that, I was just informed by Michael Turner, the Western Sydney Wanderers ground announcer, that the Mitch Duke deal is actually a loan deal. So that's an interesting one, to be honest. But who misses out in the strike force? For Western Sydney, of course.
I'd imagine it'd be Abini. I think he started in the last game against Newcastle.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he scored as well.
Yeah,
but yeah, you know what I mean.
And he was, central to a lot of their attacking play. But Simon Cox is obviously staying in Australia to miss the birth of his child. I don't think he's going to be dropped very often. He's one of their better players as well. Nikolai Muller, attacking midfielder, probably playing in the position that Duke took up in the last half of last year. But I don't think on Muller's form, Duke can displace him, considering Duke he'll have gone through a 2-week quarantine. He's definitely not going to come in straight away. I'd imagine it would be a beanie, and they'd go 2 up front, Cox and Duke, with Muller just behind.
Yeah, I think it's really something we have to examine of the coming weeks, as to how Western Sydney Wanderers will line up. I think they've been wildly inconsistent this season for what the output that they've been getting. They probably deserve a little bit more. I think that result against Newcastle, we'll talk about it now. They really just languished in the second half. Luca Pershaw was running circles around that defense. But we'll obviously address it later. But we'll go into our next game, which is the Brisbane Roar versus Adelaide United game. Obviously, the final game of the A-League triple header on the weekend. Brisbane just completely dominated this game, and I wouldn't expect it at the start of the season, but they're top 3 candidates this season, Brisbane. I thought, 18 shots to 5. They really, really tracked down Kusini Yangi and Motore, who had quite a horrible game. The hype surrounding Motore, obviously, in abundance since his last game against a victory where, he was firing on all the cylinders. But this is going to be a very, very interesting season for Adelaide United. They've been, I guess, like the Wanderers, inconsistent, but more inconsistent on the L column. They've had a couple losses this season, losing against the Perth Glory, then against the Brisbane Roar. The defense is a big worry. And I'm not just saying that because they've conceded literally 8 goals in the past 3 games, but this is a worry for me that Adelaide United have got inexperienced defenders on the wing backs. This is where they concede most of the goals. Is on the wings. That Jay O'Shea goal was absolutely outstanding. But how about this man, Dylan Wenzel-Halls? Definitely a shoe-in for the Ollie Roos alongside Nick D'Agostino. But this defending right over here, Jakobsen and Elzy, I think we do have to question this seemingly unbreakable A-League defensive partnership. However, just the space that they got, Brisbane Roar, they gave him too much space. And I think despite Delianov's heroics within many stages of the game, Adelaide were just dominated on all fronts.
Yeah, and also Delianov had a bit of a clanger for Wenzel-Halls' second goal. So he did well in the first half, but sort of...
Oh, yeah. That's what I meant, yeah.
But yeah, it was a strange game, really. Adelaide are a completely different team away from home than they are.
Oh, yeah.
They sat back, unlike they do at Cooper Stadium, sat back and defended, tried to allow Brisbane, to get on the ball and really get at them. And Brisbane, if you let them do that, they're going to capitalise. And Wenzel-Halls has been a top player this season. And if you give him any sort of chance, any sort of space, he's going to make you pay. And he did twice.
Yeah, he paid twice. And I think this is what happens when you bleed NPL talent or breed NPL talent in the right environments. I think he's been an absolutely outstanding, came from the Western Pride in NPL Queensland, and he's been a fantastic player this season. 23, still got plenty of room for improvement. And he's one of the better strikers in the competition now. He's really come into his own within an environment. He's had 2 seasons to really develop, and he's really thriving on a national stage, which is fantastic to see. I have my doubts. This Delianov mistake it's kind of glismic. You can't afford to make those mistakes. And And I think as football fans and as football journalists, we're often too quick to place expectations on goalkeepers and strikers who have one good game or two good games. We were heralding Delianov as Australia's next, Mark Schwarzer after his game against Western United. Did he look good in many stages today? Yeah, but this guy's come off a long injury layoff. These guys aren't perfect. They're not gonna be Australian football saviors. This is also saying for Dylan Wenzel Horse, he could have a bad game next week, and next week we'll be chastising him for his performances. Konstantopoulos' goal was a fantastic, consolation goal, but there are glaring issues for Adelaide United. Depth is also a huge issue. Do they have the depth within the midfield? Do they have that creative midfielder to drive them forward? What happened to this James Charisi replacement, which I asked Carl Viet about all the way back in December last year? These are issues that must be addressed, and I think Adelaide aren't in complete trouble as we're probably trying to make them out to be in huge trouble, but there are issues to be addressed, and I think Carl Viet has to really implement structural changes to the side to avoid them possibly getting a result like this at home.
Yeah, a couple of things on that. This season, because of the nature of every team can beat every team, there's no outstanding favourites at the moment. And I think the reason we say Adelaide, they're not in a bit of trouble, but they need to improve and they can improve, is because at the moment every team has got a shot of finals. There's no team that's not got a chance. You can't rule anyone out at this point. And I'd say most teams have got a shot, have shown in their games that they could also be the Premier's Plate winners, because every team has impressed so far in this league, and every team has also had less impressive games. So it's really difficult to have an outstanding favourite at the moment. I'd say for me at the moment it's Brisbane, just on their form. But they haven't played any of the teams in Melbourne in Sydney, sorry. So we'll have to see how they go there. But yeah, the reason we keep saying, Adelaide have got issues with squad depth, Perth have got issues in defence, Macarthur have got issues going forward, is because every team, if they work on the specifics that we can see as young football journalists, there's potential for them to really take a grip of this league. And it's really exciting to see that every single team has got a shot. So that's why we say Adelaide have been poor and they can work on something, because, the opportunity is there for them to go and take a real grip of the league.
And I think that's the issues that they must address, and hopefully they can get a grip on and a stronghold on the league. Sorry, is that the right term? I'm not entirely sure. But as we move into this game, obviously the Wanderers coming up against Newcastle Jets. Early Bernie Abini goal wasn't enough for them today. Now, Abini has been somewhat inconsistent. He has a dominating presence on the field as a very tall winger / striker. Luca Pershaw, when he came on, I think changed the complexion of this fixture. Obviously winning that penalty in the second half, which the New Australian, by the way, Roy Donovan did secure. Ewell was, I guess, not at his best today. Not at his best on Friday, but this man, Rabi Najarain, continues to impress. It's what happens when you give young players an opportunity, a foundation to go off. But really, Cameron, what did you take out of this game for the Wanderers? Obviously, back at home for the first time in a while, it seems. But as they sort of start to go interstate to Melbourne and Queensland, what can we expect from them in the coming weeks?
This game was crying out for Mitch Duke. Although we didn't know at the time.
Even that chance was a big.
If you bring on Mitch Duke in this situation, he's going to dictate the play. He's going to get the players, concentrating, and he's also going to provide a better threat to kill off the game, and not allow Newcastle Jets to weigh in that they had in the second half. But yeah, Western Sydney are obviously going to improve. Newcastle Jets, again, it was a very impressive performance from them in the face of adversity. You know, they came here probably not expecting to get very much out of it, but they stole a draw from it. And Luca Perso, what a player he is. He's come out of nowhere and dominated that second half. The second half was all about him.
It's the Croatians, man. It's just the Croatians. They come to the league and they fire. That's what happens. Even seen Tommy Juric this season.
Yeah, Tommy Juric, not so much.
Hey, that goal against Melbourne City was quite good. Let's not deny that.
It was a good goal, but he's been game against Perth. He was a bystander. I don't think his name was mentioned once during that game, and that's the sort of game that he needs to work on, like getting into games where they're under the cosh to get his team out of trouble a little bit, like what Mitch Duke does with Western Sydney.
Yeah, and I think we've really got an interesting sort of narrative going for the Jets. They're competitive, very competitive. Look, these were the once top of the table Wanderers, I think, last week, and the fact that they're able to be competitive and get a point, which they really dominated the second half, dictating and play on the wings. Ugarkovic is firing as always. He's been such a stalwart for them against his future club, which he's playing, which he's going to sign for them in the coming months, but. There's plenty to like about Newcastle. They've signed Apostle Stamatolopoulos, will give some depth up front with obviously Roy O'Donovan there as well, but plenty of scope for them to improve. Kyle Robinson wasn't that happy post-game. This is a team that he built. Doesn't really look like that anymore. They made quite a number of additions. Luca Percio obviously being the standout for them, but that's pretty much just sums up that fixture. But this game... Obviously, the MacArthur versus Sydney FC, marred by controversy surrounding tickets, the away tickets, the price of the away tickets. I actually didn't catch this game at all. I obviously watched the highlights like the mini matches that the A-League provide graciously. But Patrick Wood, what a star. He's done very well. I mean, the first goal was a tap, and the second one was well-timed finish. From obviously Jordy Swibble's assist there, but Mark Milligan's red card was essentially a karate kick. MacArthur, the storyline continues. They're inconsistent, aren't they?
Yeah, it was a pretty poor showing from an experienced player like Mark Milligan. I can see that if he lets him go, they're going to score. But would you really sacrifice 10 men 25 minutes in? I'm not so sure about that. That was a error in judgment on his part. And yeah, it showed come the end of the game. MacArthur were well in the game in the first half. I'd say they dominated the first half, even with 10 men. But in the second half, they fell apart, and Sydney were able to do what they do and just pick the players off one by one and make a game of it. And yeah, completely come out on top. And what I would say as well on Patrick Wood is he was very impressive for his cameo appearance. And yes, albeit the first goal was a tap in and it's a pretty simple finish for the second goal. But if you ask Adam Lafonda, for example, what makes a striker a good striker, that's exactly what it is. It's anticipation, and that's something that Lafonda's thrived on, and it's something that Sydney have been missing out on in the last few matches. So to have Wood come on and make that much of an impact, that's what a recognisable striker does for you. Barbarouses is not a striker, he's a winger. But if you put on a striker, you get a few goals. And yeah, it was a really good display from Patrick Wood, making the most of his opportunity.
Patrick Wood, the youth production of the Sydney FC Academy continues. What a star he is, and you look at the likes of Cameron Purpune, who's got a couple.
Make a game of it, and yeah, completely come out on top.
Oh, never mind. Something's just gone on wrong here. Anyway, Cameron Purpune obviously getting that very good goal on the weekend as well for Brighton's under 18s. We're looking at a very interesting Sydney FC in a couple of weeks. Obviously, with the Babo coming in, hopefully making a bench appearance next game. I don't believe he's made a match day squad yet, but correct me if I'm wrong. But obviously, I think that MacArthur, where the issues lie, partly within the midfield. I think Denny Genre was obviously very good as well. But going down 3-0 to Sydney FC with the formation they were playing, seemingly a 4-2-2-2 formation, very unconventional for an A-League side. They were dominated on all fronts. I look at the stats here: 20 shots to 9, 5 shots on target to 4, 60% possession. When you've got experienced players who are able to hold up play, like Mark Milligan, Dennis Genre is also able to hold up play pretty effectively. The inconsistency comes. Benyat and obviously Suseta aren't fully fit yet, but we yet to see what they are, how they play when they're fully fit. So I guess it's a matter of time for MacArthur to really channel their inner Basque connections and fire on all cylinders.
Composure from Wood for that last goal is something that's pretty
Most
amazing.
definitely.
He's taken a touch on the edge of the 6-yard box. He's not just swung at it. He knows that he's got space. Taken one touch to set himself and just calm.
On his weak foot as well. Yeah.
Federici, who had an outstanding game. He was just unlucky with the first Sydney goal, and he couldn't really do much about the other two. But yeah, it's a strange one for MacArthur. And I think what is in their favour is because the league is so up and down at the moment. Every single team's won and lost games apart from Brisbane, I think. MacArthur aren't out of this.
Brisbane lost against City early in the season. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that just demonstrates my point here. Like MacArthur aren't out of this either. If they, they wait for Benyat and Society to get fit, the team gels a little bit more, starts playing more regular fixtures together. That defense, gets used to being a whole group rather than just individual units. Then yeah, it will be a far better prospect for them, and they can still be a threat this season, and they can still, push for silverware, dare we say it.
Yeah, push for silverware, dare we say it. For most of the teams in the competition, another team which were unlucky and unfortunate not to get the 3 points here, or at least something, was the Mariners. Surprisingly enough, against a very, very, good striking partnership they have between Tomer Hamed and Ulises Davia. What a goal there by Davia. Continues to fire. Despite probably not the best start to the season by his standards, he's really starting to come into his own now and really start to make an impact for the Phoenix. But Oli Bozanic today on Sunday was absolutely outstanding. He really showed his class, possibly a shout for the next Socceroos squad, whenever that is. But really, I think the Mariners dictated the tempo for most of this fixture. Aluqual's goal really demonstrates the quality they have on the park. His goal, look at that positioning for the header. This is something that is not gained at A-League level often. He scored 28 goals in 40 games for the Goulburn Valley Suns in the NPL2 only about 2 years ago. And for what he's done for the Mariners this season is outstanding. Does he have lapses in concentration? Yeah, he's obviously not he's not the strongest striker in the world in terms of his mental toughness on the pitch. However, he's an aerial threat, a striking threat. He's got a lot of qualities, and if he's able to build up some muscle, we're looking at a very serious contender for the Olaroo squad in the coming years. He's only 19 years old, so plenty of room for him to improve. But back onto the sort of game that we witnessed. Wellington scored a goal against a run of play. Josh Soterio's goal was a difference maker in the end. But this really shouldn't, and I hope it doesn't, dash the Mariners' confidence. They've been fantastic this season.
Yeah, it was a bit of a daylight robbery. Wellington managing to get 3 points after Mariners dominated much of the game and probably the second half as well. Oli Bozanic was fantastic, completely controlled the game. Start to finish, and it was a big benefit for them, him being able to come out in the second half as well after picking up a knock late in the first half. But yeah, credit to Wellington because they sat back, they defended, and they waited for their opportunity. And when Cicerio was played in, he made the most of it. It was a really good, smart finish for a striker that's he's not played masses and masses of football recently. But this is a really good finish to get around Stefan Negro, I think it is.
Yeah.
And lob Mark Berregitti. It's a very, very calm, composed finish.
Yeah, I think Wellington have been okay this season. I mean, they haven't really been as good as they were last season. But then again, similar start to last season. This is actually the first win of the season, by all accounts. And uh, really, you hope that they'll be able to sort of get on a bit of run of form here. I think, you know, to go away to the Mariners and, in quite a tough environment there. They've obviously had a huge storm over the weekend in New South Wales, and to come away with a result in a game which it probably didn't deserve 3 points. 23 shots to 12, and with the position going their way, the Wellington's way, if they're able to channel that, dictate the tempo a lot more, and make those lung busting runs on the left side. Obviously, they've got James McGarry there, who's been fantastic for them this season. Tim Payne was on the right on that in this fixture. It's a matter of time before David Ball and Tom Mechema get more opportunities fed into them from the midfield. So with Alex Rufer back, we can expect hopefully a lot more this season from the Wellington Phoenix. Now, I'm actually going to show you a highlight here. It's only 10 seconds. It's actually Martin Boyle's goal from Jackson Irvine's assist here. Look at that brilliant ball. Cameron, you sent this to me, I think, was it yesterday? I was like, wow, what a goal we got here. But what to make of Jackson Irvine so far in Scotland?
Yeah, he's even though he's not played regular football for a while, he's taken to starting in the Scottish Premier League very well. It's like he never left. I thought it was 3 or 4 years ago now, and he's done remarkably well, actually. And yeah, it shows. That's exactly what you get from Jackson Irvine. He's picking up the ball, he's driving at defenders, and Martin Boyle, with his pace, has generated a little bit of space in behind, and Irvine has been able to find him, and it's a really calm finish from Martin Boyle. And, those two playing with each other at Hibernian are sure to be making impacts, hopefully, with the Socceroos stage. You mentioned Oli Bozanic might be coming into the Socceroos squad. I think if Irvine plays like he did in that game against Dundee regularly, Bozanic hasn't got a chance, basically. Irvine
I mean, it's just a shout. It's a matter of consistency, really. But I think Irvine has played extremely well. I think really showing that he's above the quality there. I think that he's really championship quality still. As you mentioned on previous episodes, I think it's a matter of time before he secures another move. Obviously, he's got his contract expires at the end of the season, so more to expect from Jackson Irvine. Some other Aussies abroad news. Denny Juric was, he was very good against Dinamo Zagreb. Scored, and Dinamo Zagreb are interested in him, according to their manager. So potentially another Socceroos candidate in the making. You never know. Denny Juric coming from the depths of the Croatian second division to where he is now. This has been a very good story for him. But I guess we'll just end it there. Happy birthday, man. I haven't really, on call, I haven't really given you that opportunity and the due diligence to say happy birthday, but you've been a fantastic addition to the Australian footballing landscape. Hopefully you can come down here once all COVID is wrapped up and done. But yeah, I mean, how's it feel to be 19, man?
Currently in lockdown, no different to 18. But
yeah,
it is. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be on the pod and to be writing fairly regularly as well, which is what I love doing. So yeah, it's been really good, and I'm much enjoying this side of my life at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's really all we have to say for now. We'll be returning on Thursday, hopefully with a guest. Cameron's on that this week, which is fantastic to see. But yeah, we'll let you know when that happens. If it happens, I hope it does. But yeah, the A-League continues to deliver. Even with a 0-0 draw, was plenty of action this weekend. This week, in terms of marquee fixtures, we do have a couple this week. We obviously have the second MacArthur versus Western Sydney Wanderers game, And we also have the Battle of Sydney FC versus Wellington Phoenix, which is one that I'm going to pay attention to, especially the second game that they've been playing as well. So hopefully we can actually not play 2 games. So how would you put this in the best way? Hopefully sides couldn't have played or shouldn't have played the second games against each other by now, only 5-6 weeks in. However, we'll see what happens in the future. Obviously on the W League front, which we haven't really talked about, this this Tuber Man scenario is ridiculous. And it's an illustration that perhaps Fox Sports don't really care about any of the footballing product and will not even withstand any criticism, as well as now no statements have really been issued on Fox's end. This is very unfortunate, isn't it, Cameron?
Yeah, it's not a brilliant thing when your main broadcaster is making a lot of one-off mistakes so often. I think there hasn't been a week gone by in the W League season where there's been some sort of broadcasting issue. And again, we saw it in the A-League with the Wellington versus Sydney game as well. It's just unfortunate that they can't seem to, really care about the package that they're making. It's really like they're outbidding the other broadcasters, and yet they aren't really putting on a very good package. It's just a bit of a shame, really. And I don't want to say they should go and they're rubbish and etc. But like at the end of the day,
step up your game.
You're providing a package that you should be proud of. And if you're working for Fox Sports at the moment, you're looking at that and thinking, is that really the best that we can do? Not a chance. And it's frankly a bit embarrassing when you're making regular mess ups like that. You're not seeing that in any other league in the world. You're not seeing it in the Premier League with Sky Sports or BT Sport. You're not seeing that in the MLS even. Like, they obviously, football isn't their main sport there, but they don't have broadcasting issues like they do in Australia.
I think it's a matter of time before the A-League rights war begins. Hopefully next month things are getting underway. That will do it for us on the Round Ball Roundup. Cameron, thank you very much for joining us once again, as you always do, bright and early there in the UK, approaching 10 a.m. That's about it. Hopefully we can bring you a guest for Thursday's show. All the best, guys. Have a fantastic week, and we'll catch you guys soon.